Similar to those of you who were here for the previous forum, we're going to give each candidate 2 minutes for an introduction, and we'll go to your questions. We do now have a mic right up here if you want to ask a question. You can write them, and we'll bring them up here and ask the question. When we do that, we'll give the candidate 1 minute to answer the question, given that we have 7 candidates up here, and that way we hopefully can get 4 or 5 questions in before we wrap up. And again, when we finish the last question, I'll give you 1 minute, candidates, for your wrap-up. Any questions? If not, would you please get the microphone? Please start it. There we go. Thanks.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kirsten Workman. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting tonight's forum and to each of you for attending. It's an honor to be here. As you know, I'm running for one of the 4 seats coming open on the Board of Education. To share a little about me, I'm first a Christian, a wife to my husband Guy for nearly 22 years, a mother, a registered nurse, and a professional educator. My background includes a Bachelor of Science degree from the College of William and Mary in Virginia, and a Master of Science in Nursing with a focus in nursing education from the University of Texas at Arlington. I've been a practicing registered nurse for over 14 years, and I have several years of full-time teaching experience as a university-level nursing instructor. My vision as a board member involves promoting an atmosphere that sincerely values all parents' voices. I'd like to introduce and foster policy and practices that will improve our students' academic performance, spend less on administration, and instead invest every possible budgetary dollar on students and teachers. And finally, keep our kids' classroom experiences politically neutral and free of sexually themed material. There are plenty of extracurricular opportunities for students to explore those concepts without sacrificing the instructional time needed to build their foundational knowledge. Specifically, and high on my priority list, is a safe pedestrian access route to our buildings. If we can't afford to bus our students who live within the walk zone, then we need to ensure they have a safe route on foot. Second, play is critical to learning in young children. I'd like to help make a playground that's accessible to students with mobility challenges a reality. The fact that we don't have this now is a black mark on a well-funded school district. Every dollar our district spends needs to stand up to the scrutiny of the parents of students who cannot even access the playground. Thank you for your time, and I'd be honored if you vote Kirsten Workman for USD 469 on November 7th.
Good evening, my name is Brian Covey, and first I'd like to apologize for anybody who has to hear my intro twice, if you weren't here before. I'm originally from St. Louis, so right down the road, a couple hundred miles. 1989, I graduated high school. I married my wife, Amy, who's out in the audience, and joined the Air Force. Me and Amy spent 26 years in the Air Force, and I retired Senior Master Sergeant in 2016. And that's when we decided to move here to Lansing. Me and Amy have 3 kids, 1 grandson. So why am I running for the school board? So some of my priorities. I think all of us could probably agree that we're all interested in improving student achievement. I mean, that's why we're here, is the kids need to get a good education and leave school being productive, with the tools needed to be productive citizens. I would like to see that happen, though, by not raising the budget as little as we need to. Fiscal responsibility is very important to me. With that said, it's always concerning to me when I come, since I've started this run for school board, and since my wife's been on the school board, is to hear that our teachers can't even afford to live in the district in which they teach. So a priority of mine would be to use any money that we can squeeze out of the budget to help fund those teachers' raises that they need. I was enlisted in the Air Force for all that time, and I know that sometimes the people doing all the work are not getting all the pay. So that isn't a priority of mine. Also, I'd like to make sure that parents are the primary voice in their children's education. Vote for Brian Covey. Thank you.
My name is Michelle McQuillan, and I am a current board member and running again for a seat. I graduated from Lansing High School in 1986. I have a bachelor's degree in business, a teaching certificate, and a master's in education from St. Mary's College. I retired from the U.S. Army Reserve in 2011 as a master sergeant with 24 years of service. I was a military instructor at CGSC from 2002 to 2017. Currently, I work with my husband at our company, which we have owned since 2011. I chose to run again and serve on the board because I believe I bring a lot of different perspectives to the table. I have an education background, military background. I am from this community, third generation, and I want to get this district back to the way we were years ago, doing what's best for the children, not based on a political agenda. I graduated from Lansing and had children in the district, because now I have grandchildren, and I had a child with special needs. I have a lot of different perspectives that help to make informed decisions and insights that others may not have. As a parent, I know firsthand the challenges that students and teachers face in our education system. I am committed to advocating for increased funding for schools, particularly for improving teachers' pay, much-needed facility maintenance updates, retention and training, and to make our schools safe, functional, and conducive to training. As a former military instructor and curriculum developer, I know the importance of having qualified educators who receive the resources and support they need to help students strive. I will support policies that attract and retain the best staff and ensure they have the resources they need to succeed. My personal experience as a parent, business owner, leader, education professional, and community member have prepared me well for this role. I've experienced working with diverse individuals and communities and understand the importance of collaboration and teamwork. I am committed to creating excellent education opportunities for all students and bringing my passion, experience, and commitment to the school board once again. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Pete Im. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this event. I'm married. I have 2 sons. We've lived here 13 years now. I'm running for the school board because I'm a teacher. I teach at the United States Army Command and General Staff College now for the past 6 years after a 27-year career in our Army. Jeannie and I decided that this was going to be our home because of the schools. And so why I'm running? Very simple. I believe that the first priority that we need to reestablish is trust. Trust in the Board of Education, confidence with our parents, belief by our teachers, and of course, all about our students. I believe that we need to go and actually implement and develop the implementation plans for that strategic plan that Mr. Robinson had mentioned, that 5-year out. And I believe that in order to do that, we have to be focused on developing the systems and processes that allow us to do what we need to do in accomplishing our objectives. We need that whole child approach to learning and teaching. We need improved communications between parents, teachers, administrators, collaboration with our community. We need to embody the positive learning climate and culture that is part of our history here at Lansing. And finally, we need to deliver successful graduates, 21st century graduates, who are ready to take on the challenges that we need in an ever complex, an ever diverse, and ever challenging environment. My last priority, focus on our fiscal health. That's one of the top things that will enable us to be able to do what we need to do, not only as educators and as administrators, but also as a community. My name is Pete Im, and please vote for me on the 7th of November.
My name's Aaron Yoakum. I'm rerunning for school board. I'm currently a sitting school board member. 4 years on the school board has taught me things that I never thought it would. You sit there up there and you hear every side of every story, and you're making what decisions you can for what's best for kids. That's what the first and foremost of every one of my votes. What's best for kids? I'm a proud Lansing graduate. I'm married to an educator. I was raised by an educator. My brother's an educator. It's one of those things that when you take pride in the community you live in, you want to serve it. That's all I want to do, is keep serving it. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Kerry Brungart. I'm running for a spot on the USD 469 Board of Education. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this forum. I'd like to tell you a few things about me. The greatest privilege of my life was serving as a husband and father. I was married to the love of my life, Michelle, for 33 years. Cancer took her from me, and I miss her terribly. I have two boys, Nick, 32, who coaches football at Highland Community College, and Joe, 27, who is on the autism spectrum. Joe has overcome so much in his life. The teachers at USD 469 played a huge role in preparing Joe for success post-graduation. My son works full-time with benefits. Joe's my hero. Both of my boys attended Lansing schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. Both boys received an outstanding education. I am running for a spot on the Lansing Board of Education for the following reasons. I want to bring back common sense and a sense of normalcy to the Lansing Board. I want to heal the divide in our district. Now let me tell you some things that are important to me. It is important to me that a Board of Education values teachers and respects the great things they do for our Lansing students. It's important for me that every decision made by a member of a Board of Education should be based on how that will impact students. It is important to me that we retain our excellent teachers. This won't happen unless those teachers feel valued and appreciated. It is important for me that all Lansing students, regardless of their gender, the color of their skin, or their socioeconomic status, are provided the best education possible. And it's important to me that our LGBTQ students, by the way, are some of our most vulnerable lions, are respected, accepted, and protected. That's it. I'd appreciate your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sean D'Souza. I'm a Lansing alumni. I came here from a private school, so I'm a big fan of public education and what it can be. I have two kids, first and third grade. My wife was a part of the PTA as well, too. I graduated from Pittsburgh State with a mechanical engineering degree. Right now I'm a business owner, own a remodeling company, and I bring that up because we know something about budgets because we see it every day, and we also see what value people put in money. I'm here today running for school board because I believe that we need a change. I see competition with open enrollment from other schools, and that we're growing more to having choice. So since we can have a choice, I think we need to make sure that Lansing's the best choice for our students. I'm a big believer in the trades. I'm part of a national organization that has a local chapter, and I'm a council member on that. And so part of that, we see what other schools are doing. They ask us what the schools should do for students to make them ready for the workforce. And we see what's out there, and we see the amount of grant money that's put out there, and it's a lot of money. And considering everything we hear is all about budgets, it would be nice to have another revenue source. The other thing is fiscal responsibility and budgets. It doesn't matter if we're not raising or we're taking away, but are we making good use of the money and how are we spending it? Teacher retention is important to me. I look at teachers as artists. They're painting pictures with our children, and we have to reward the ones that are doing exceptional, make sure that we're staying around. The playground's another issue that it's kind of hard for me to look at, knowing that we're not meeting expectations, providing for a 20% group of the population and not having something feasible. And it's a long time that we've done something for that. And then maintenance, making sure we're taking care of what the voters voted for. Thank you.
Thank you. Earlier today, I received an email from Roy Foster. He said he could not be here this evening because he tested positive for COVID. So I have a short statement for Roy Foster. He writes, I am deeply committed to the principles of experienced leadership and above all the unwavering dedication to putting our children's education first. In our ever-evolving world, the role of school board member is of paramount importance. It is a position that requires a unique blend of wisdom, passion, and experience. As we gather here to discuss the future of our educational system, I want to emphasize the critical significance of experienced leadership in shaping the path forward for our schools. Experience garnered through years of service and involvement is the bedrock upon which we can build a strong and progressive school system. It equips us with the knowledge and the insight to navigate the complex challenges our schools face, from budget constraints to curriculum development, from technology integration to teacher recruitment and retention. My years of executive leadership have taught me that these issues are not abstract, but they directly impact the quality of education our children receive. Putting kids' education first means advocating for fiscal responsibility, providing teachers with resources and support they need, and promoting innovative teaching methods that engage and inspire our students. It means fostering a safe and inclusive learning environment where every child feels valued and empowered to achieve their full potential. In the coming weeks, we engage in discussion and debates about the future of our schools. Let us remember the fundamental principles of experienced leadership and putting kids' education first. I humbly ask for your support and your trust as we embark on this journey together, committed to building a strong, more vibrant educational system that meets the needs of our community and empower our children. That's from Roy Foster. All right, let's move into the questions. Candidates, you'll have 1 minute to answer each of these. Let's start off with the number one question. With school violence and mass shooting rates, some schools allow teachers to carry concealed weapons. What are your thoughts on allowing Lansing teachers to carry guns in school? Sean, would you start at that?
That's a tough question to start off with. We see that there's a growth in school violence, especially since I was a student, and we know things change. A lot has changed. I don't know if arming teachers is the best thing to do. We go up to the city hall over here. There's a small population of people that work there, but you have to be checked by a security or by the sheriff's office, and you go in there and they scan your stuff. So I think that there's other steps we can do. I don't think arming our teachers, unless it's something that they feel strongly about, that I don't think it's something that we should pursue. Thank you.
School shootings are horrible. We can all agree on that. But arming teachers, I just don't see how that's going to solve the issue. We've had SOR officers armed in buildings where we've had school shootings, and they still occurred. I've worked in this district for 31 years. I'm trying to remember or think about any teacher that came to me and would be willing to arm themselves with a handgun. I can't think of anybody that would want to do that. I just don't know how that would solve the issue. I worry that students are going to lose trust in teachers if they see them walking around carrying a pistol at their side. What I hope we would do instead is maybe invest more in mental health providers. I think that would be a great way to go.
The burdens our teachers have right now seem like a mountain. Asking them to defend the child with a firearm when I know for a fact that every one of them would defend them with everything they had already. I wouldn't take the option away from them, but I wouldn't encourage it. I would more look to adding SROs. I would look to securing our buildings better than current. If you have an uptick, I would lean on Kevin McCarley, our security advisor for the district, to present us options. I wouldn't go straight to arming teachers, but If that became a last resort, I know that every one of them would defend their kids with everything they had, because that's what a teacher does anyways.
No, I'm not for that at all. I've served in combat zones. I fully understand what it means to go and carry a loaded firearm and use it in a combat situation. And I will tell you that, again, the load that we're asking, I think what the basic question is going to be, why is it that we're dealing with that violence in a community? Why is it that we have something like that that occurs? And we've had near misses before. That violence comes from disconnectedness. It comes from the lone individuals. It comes from the lack of proper supervision, proper training, proper understanding of the responsibilities that come with that Second Amendment, with the right to be able to bear arms. But the biggest issue is violence. And I would say that part of our issue with that is the lack of belonging, the lack of connection, the lack of purpose is at the heart of our violence epidemic.
I would not support or any of our teachers carrying a weapon. I think as a school board member, that would be fall on our responsibility to making our schools safe. That's one of my goals, safe, functional, and conducive to learning. So that would fall back on us to figure out how to make our schools, working with our security and our safety individuals, and looking at how do we make our schools safer? How do we, like I think Aaron had said, getting our SROs if we have to increase that. But our teachers, that is not something that they need to have on their plate. Having a grandchild in the school, I would not want, or any child. I mean, I can just think of that. I just could not support that. Thank you.
So this is a kind of a no-brainer for me. I absolutely support arming teachers if they are willing to concealed carry. One of my last duty assignments was at or near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and the school district there arms teachers, and they've had no issues. It seems like, again, a no-brainer. You can have all the security in the world, and it's been proven many times with the mass shootings and school violence we've seen in the news that a gunman who wants to do harm is going to find a way to do it. And one of the softest targets is a school, because they know there's no weapons in school. So having armed teachers and letting the public know that there are folks who have access to firearms seems like a very good deterrent for someone who wants to do harm to our children. Again, it would be a volunteer basis, and of course we would want the best training we could give to those teachers who volunteer.
I am not opposed to it, and I'm not for it. I don't think locally our level of violence in our schools is something that we would need to consider that question. But if we were to face that, I think that's something we should put on the table. I don't think we should prohibit people from concealed carrying. However, in a school environment or any environment where children are the largest demographic, I think you need to take extra measures beyond just the typical permits to make sure that they're safely able to carry. I'm mostly opposed to it, at least here locally, just because one of the things I am for is protecting our face-to-face instructional time for our students. I think our students deserve the highest level of engagement with our teachers who are free to teach. And I think it's awfully burdensome to take that important job and then also tack on top of that, safety and security of a room full of people and manage those at the same time. That's a lot to ask.
Thank you. Our next question, will you support an increase in salary for our teachers? Please start. Please go.
Yes, I do, if the money's there. I think we need to be competitive with neighboring districts and pay our teachers what they're worth.
Pass the mic.
Yeah, good question. Like I said in my opening, you know, I want to be fiscally responsible, but I do agree that I do feel that the people who doing the yeoman's amount of the work should be getting fair compensation. I know over the years, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but you know, admin pay seems to be on the increase, where teacher pay seems to be somewhere on the more flat curve. And I would love to be able to get more money into the pockets of the people doing the most important work, and that's actually teaching the students. So absolutely.
Yes. I've been on the negotiations committee for the past 2 years, and so that's one thing that we really have strived for. I mean, I would love to give, that's one thing I would have loved to do this year, was we kind of even talked about how do we make Lansing the highest school district, you know, for teachers, pay the base salary, you know, so how do we do that? And we were not able to do that this year with all of the, whether we go revenue neutral or not, and all of that, and so we did what we could. I would love to give them way more next year, so I'm all for giving them everything that, like I said, I think there's a couple council members, and I think everybody on here, if we could just come into money, that would be the first place I think I would put it, but my answer is yes.
Unequivocal yes. And so this is what I'd like to see, is how do we prioritize our budget? How do we look at the competing needs between building, between curricula, and people? Now, I think this is one of the key things is, if you want to know what you value in a community, look at where you're putting your money into. And I think that the biggest thing that we have, the greatest challenge that we have, are human beings. Not just any human beings, teachers, the people who spend the most time with our kids. So to me, as a board member, that is foremost in terms of not only executing our strategy, but really building trust. Once again, with the teachers who on their backs have been bearing the brunt of choices that we've made as a community. We as a board have to do a better job of articulating that as to what's at cost. And what's at cost is the wisdom, the energy, the mental horsepower of the very people that we need for our future.
The answer to that is yes. At the same time, you don't just get to say, yes, we want to give raises. You have to figure out how. You have to make sure that the community understands that every mill that you take and where it goes needs to be accounted for. So it's not just saying, yes, I want to give teachers raises, but it's also making sure that you give them a comparable wage to the districts that surround us. 15, 20 minutes away, we have multiple districts that start off paying way more, $2,000 to $4,000 more. They stay here in Lansing because their pride in Lansing. Our taxpayers need to understand that when we decide to give the raises to them, that they support that because we're trying to retain the highest quality teachers we can.
The answer is absolutely yes. When you talk about where that money could come from, the state says they fully fund education, but they don't fully fund special education. That would free up a lot of money for teachers if they did that. At one time, Lansing was either 1 or 2, went back and forth with as the highest salary for teachers in the county, and I believe we're 5th now. And that's bothersome because we are going to lose, and we have lost teachers to other districts. Many of our teachers love it here. They're invested in the community and they want to stay. But those new teachers, this is a transient society. New teachers that we have coming in, if they're really good, we want to keep them on board, and we don't want to lose them. And they're more apt to move.
I would definitely support an increase in salary. And it's not only where do we start them off at, it's where do they retire at. If they have to work for forever because we're not paying them accordingly, as the years go on, that's also a fault. We're too close to other schools. If we lose a employee or a teacher to pay, we realize that we're losing somebody valuable, and we have to retain those teachers because they have something to sell. You know, not only is it also pay, it's also a safe work environment, it's benefits, it's how we treat those teachers, it's what we give them, and how we further them along. So we look at pay as a small part of how we reward our teachers.
Our next question. What specifically would you do to mitigate the violence and disrespectful student attitudes as reported by teachers and staff in the recent district climate survey? And how would you make classrooms and hallways safe? Please.
I would look at it as a partnership with our parents, making sure our parents are involved as much as we can. And I know that some parents are a little bit more involved than others, but I go back to that. It's parts teachers and it's a lot of the parents as well. So I think making sure we're reaching out, making sure we're communicating and addressing those issues would be my first focus.
Unfortunately, there are a few students every year that cannot function in a regular school setting. And as an educator, it's hard to come to grips to that. But when they take away the learning from other kids, that's when it becomes a real problem. When you have to empty a classroom or the kid destroys a classroom, and they do this on a continuing basis, you've got to fix that. I'm going to make some enemies when I say this probably, but I don't agree with the fact that we shut down a day program here for our behavior kids. I think that was a huge mistake, and I think if the state funded special education, we could bring a program back like that, because I know it was expensive and it was done as cost saving. Sorry for going over.
Supporting your teachers has to start not only from the family, but it also has to come from the admin, and then also if you start looking at behavioral instances of a child, the next question is are they identified? Is there an IEP? Is there a 504? Are they getting the support that they need through services that they may not be identified at yet? Making sure that their mental health through our counselors are supported, and then making sure that our teachers are well supported through our admin in a response time and an appropriate manner of discipline for when a child acts out against a teacher and is completely uncontrollable. That's where the admin has to be the buck stopping in that district, in that school setting, in that individual building. And then they need to be supported by the parents in that decision from admin.
Yeah, to the point on every student, all students, regardless of their situation, our responsibility is to be able to provide that education and to provide that safe environment. And I think that's one of the things about what we look at in our priorities, whether it's psychology, whether it's coming from interventionists, whether it's coming from counselors, whether it's coming from parents. In order for us to be able to create that climate, we have to have effective communication and the services on site available to the administrators, to the teachers, to be able to deal with these disciplinary actions.
I think everybody working together is one of the best ways. Just having children in the district, when the parents and the teachers work together, and like you said, Peter, with the communication, I think a lot can be done by just keeping that open communication and working with the teachers, working with the admin, because although I know that that's not going to solve all the problems, but I think reaching out and the parents working with the teachers and trying to do the best that you can with that situation at that time, you can get a lot solved. And then if you have to take it up and resolve and do other things with it, then you can. But I think just that open communication and trying to get things solved at the lowest level is the best action.
Do you mind repeating the question? So I understand.
What
it.
specifically would you do to mitigate the violence and disrespectful student attitudes as reported by teachers and staff in the recent district climate survey, and also improve the security at classrooms and hallways?
Okay, so I think the district should have and they may already, but enforce a zero tolerance policy for violence and disrespect towards the teachers. I think the earlier children learn that actions have consequences, whatever those consequences are, right? Whatever the school policy is, that should be enforced 100%. It would also put parents on notice that if your child misbehaves at school, there are consequences, and here are the consequences. So it would be in your best interest to ensure your child shows respect to teachers and behaves at school.
Thanks. I think first we need to act justly and love mercy. I believe that oftentimes we underestimate what students are capable of delivering on in terms of behavior, but also recognize that some students with mental health challenges or family life or whatever they might be going through do act out as a cry for help. And so we need to be mindful of that with caring adults around who can screen them. But that being said, teachers need to be free to teach. And if students are interfering with that learning opportunity for other students, they should be removed from the classroom. And hopefully we can reach out and work with parents and administrators to support those teachers who can be empowered to uphold the highest expectations of our students. I think oftentimes students will rise to those expectations most of the time and deliver, and those that can't need to be held accountable locally at the student level, and then to the parents and also with the administration. Thank you.
Next question. Would you support or oppose the USD 469 Parents' Bill of Rights?
I definitely support it. I spoke in the school board meeting in favor of it a couple of years ago. I know some folks believe that the Parents' Bill of Rights is unnecessary because those rights are already enshrined in existing policy, and I certainly agree with that. And from personal experience, I would say that as a parent, I don't need a document to affirm my parental rights, but I do think that it's helpful that in today's society, not just locally but nationwide, parents do feel their voices and their freedoms marginalized by the education system. And so I believe having some dialogue and a document that kind of affirms that, where everyone can come to the table and say, yes, this is a parent's right to do, can foster mutual understanding between both parties. So yes, I do advocate for that, and I'm for strengthening the Parents' Bill of Rights. Thank you.
So yeah, I definitely support a Parents' Bill of Rights. Why would anybody oppose having, even if these rights do appear somewhere else in statute or policy, having one document that shows a parent, here is your rights here at Lansing School District? It just makes sense, and why oppose? That just boggles my mind. Again, as I said in my opening, parents it's their children, so the only reason schools exist is to teach parents' children. The parents are entrusting the school with their children. It only seems prudent to tell those parents, these are the rights you can expect, and if you have any issues with the school, here's how you can address those. And having those in one document seems like a great idea.
As a current board member, I did not vote for the Parent Bill of Rights. I believe that, and being a parent and having children in the district, those were policies and rights that I already had. I never had a problem. I'd had numerous times that I had to go to, I had 5 boys, so I was always talking to teachers or principals or what have you, many times, but I never had a problem where if I had an issue that I needed to talk to a teacher or administrator, I was able to do that. My concerns were addressed. I never had an issue, and I just think that putting those up front dismantles all of the trust that you have within your teachers, within your administration, and to me, they're things that are already there, and I just think they're unnecessary to. I just think it causes distrust. Thank you.
You know, I'm for the Parents' Bill of Rights. I think that's a great way of opening up communication between parents and the schools. I'm also an advocate for the Teacher Bill of Rights because I do believe that teachers themselves should have expectations of responsibilities that they should be expected not only as the teachers who are imparting knowledge, but things that are requirements then that they should have from the students that come to them, supported by both parents and teachers. And I think there should be a Students' Bill of Rights, because from the student perspective, there should be an equal voice in their choice of education or the direction that they want to go in. I think one of the things about the Parents' Bill of Rights is that it did create a lot of friction in our community, and it did bring up some things that I today still have difficulty with. But I think we need a couple more Bill of Rights. Thanks.
As a current sitting board member, I did not vote for the Parents' Bill of Rights because the rights that your parents, or that the parents of our district have, were already explicitly listed in there. Every parent that has a question about their child's education, because it is their child, should pick up the phone and contact first their teacher, then their admin, then their superintendent, then their school board. Following that chain of command and making sure that they feel that they have gotten the answer they need for their child. Our policies were set previously, and the consolidation of them into a Bill of Rights, I didn't see the need for it.
The Parent Bill of Rights sounds warm and cuddly on the outside, but really what I think it did is it sent a signal to teachers, staff of schools, that you don't trust us. Like I've said before, I was a principal for many years in this district. I gave out my cell phone number to 650 sets of parents. They could call me anytime, day or night, and they did. And I got lots and lots of emails. I have never considered parents in this district to be shut off from the school system, to not feel welcome. I had a very active site council. Those rights that are in the Parents' Bill of Rights are already embedded in our policy.
So I look at it as we took something that was in policy, created by generations, and brought it to the front. And if that helps parents see things a little bit more clearly after what I consider a reaction to maybe some of the things that we got from COVID, maybe it's a good help. My experience with the school, anytime we've ever needed something, anytime we've ever questioned anything, anytime we've always wondered of, hey, is my kid getting the best attention or getting what she needs for her particular situation, we've asked, and the amount of response we get is great, and the things that we don't even see that the school's doing for our students is there. So we see that it's great with what is being done, and there's a lot of tools in place, and maybe it didn't need to be brought to the front too, but maybe it's there to help us realize that things are taken care of.
Okay. Brian, would you be the first to answer this? We had several people write in these questions. So, Mr. Covey, isn't it being on the board with your wife a conflict of interest? And if you were to be elected to both the city council and board simultaneously, is this going to be a conflict to be able to do both?
No. So yeah, I short answered in jest, but I don't understand how it would be a conflict of interest for the school board if me and my wife were on it. A conflict of interest would presume that I have some financial gain in the system. I mean, we would be separate people on the board, separate votes. I mean, are you saying that me and my wife are the same person? That we didn't make it 34 years and never disagree on issues. As far as the city council and the school board goes, I don't know how that's a conflict of interest either. Again, there's no political gain. There's really no overlap between what the city council does and what the school district does. One vote on the city council would have nothing to do with how the district is run and vice versa. So how that would be a conflict of interest, I fail to see.
I'm going to give the rest of the candidates an option. Do you want to respond to that, or want to move on? Anybody? Okay, let me ask you another question then. With the budget being...
I do. I want to answer that.
Oh, you do?
Okay.
Please, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I do think that it's important to have on the school board, you're advocating for the schools. You're advocating on the perspective of education. And when we look at the city council, we're looking at the bigger picture of the city council. And I do find that it seems a little bit odd that we would have the same members of one family in one household, and no offense, but it's one of those types of things where it would lead to a lot of questions. And I think that, at least in terms of having a functional school board, we've got to have a variety of opinion. We've got to have a diversity of thought. We've also got to have the lack of ideology or the lack of partisanship that is sitting up there to be able to evaluate the issues that are facing our kids, our schools, our community.
Anybody else want to address it? Please.
I don't think it's right, but I don't, not just for the Coveys, I don't think it would be right if for the Brungarts, the Yoakums, or the D'Souza's. I just philosophically disagree with that.
And down here. Pass the mic down, please.
So when I learned that Brian was running, I asked myself the same question. Oh, that's interesting. What would that mean for our board? But ultimately, I decided I disagree with my husband almost every day. So we're different people with different opinions. I'm sure the Coveys do the same. But even if they are entirely like-minded, they each get one vote. And I do have faith in the voters of Lansing. If they, I think it's quite clear, they're very transparent to anybody who might not know. So I think we really ought to leave that up to the voters to decide. I know I'll be voting for Brian because I support what he stands for. And I think ultimately that's what matters. You vote for the person who you think is going to do the best job.
All right, next question. We're going to probably run over just a little bit. But let me ask this. With the budget being revenue neutral and the maintenance budget being used for other issues, how do we fix the backlog of district maintenance issues? Please.
That's a good question, and it's a tough one. And it's a little difficult to answer that with the most informed judgment. As an outsider, I don't have free access to a lot of that information. I do think we are well funded with back-to-back increases in the school board's budget of around 11 to 12% for the last couple of years. So I think the money is there, although I am against forming solid opinions on things without a lot of the data sitting in front of me. To be specific and answer that question, I think we need to it's kind of like triaging. You just prioritize what matters most, and you do the best you can with what's in front of you. So I would say teachers matter most, student safety matters most, so those are the highest priorities, and then you just funnel that money where it needs to go to meet the other needs. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it ultimately comes down to prioritization. Once there's a clear picture of exactly what maintenance needs to be done, as I understand the current board is coming up with a plan. They've commissioned someone to come in and look at all the facilities to tell the board what issues they face and how they should prioritize them. Once they are prioritized and they figure out, and there's a dollar amount put on those priorities, now it's a way to now how do you execute and meet those priorities? Well, it's going to come down to fiscal responsibility without raising people's taxes above revenue neutral. And I'm not saying you never go above revenue neutral, but sometimes you have to, right? It's just a necessary evil. But yeah, it all comes down to prioritizing the budget.
Like Brian had said, we had hired an outside agency that came in and looked at all of our facilities and will report back to us, and we'll prioritize, and we'll sit down that in a work session, and we'll look at all of those things as a board, and we'll just rank them and what we need to look at and what and how those are going to be, well, for a better word, prioritized. But that's going to take funding, and where are we going to get that funding? And so either, this year we didn't go above revenue neutral, so is that going to be a bond? It's going to take some hard work that we're going to have to sit down as a board and work through. So that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to sit down and figure out how we're going to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, this is not magic, it's math. And part of the issue that we've got in front of us is the pots of money that we use to go fund our schools. Going revenue neutral was basically a missed opportunity. It was one of the issues that when we listened to the superintendent along with the financial officers, they laid out pretty much what it looks like, not just for next year, but what it looks like, for example, our mortgage, the bond and interest, right? That is how we're funding revenue neutral at this point. We're not moving extra money from some place that we're getting extra dollars from. We're moving money from basically where we're not paying portions of our mortgage. And that's okay until a point comes where the mortgage comes due. And so part of the strategy in terms of how do you develop a plan to be able to fund necessary maintenance, you can't be paying teachers out of capital outlay funds. You can't do that, or you're going to burn yourself. We've got plenty of history, but the issue comes down to is we've got to go and build a reserve.
Okay, so the salaries that are coming out of capital outlay right now are maintenance and janitorial. It's to the tune of about $1 million. $1 million coming out that's meant for facilities. You can't stay revenue neutral, and Mr. M, in 2026 is when it goes into the red on our bond and interest. So we need to be able to pull $1 million worth of salaries out of our capital outlay, put it into the correct LOB general fund, funding that pays for the rest of our staff, so that way, in the future, if we pass a bond, it's not just a Band-Aid fix and then we come back and ask you for another Band-Aid. We need to be able to pull those salaries out so that we're putting that money aside so that when we go for a bond to fix it and to fix the priority list as it comes down, we have the money going into our savings to actually pay for it. So that way it's not sticking our hands out twice to you.
Going revenue neutral was a missed opportunity. I agree with what Pete said. It's only going to cause us next year or the year after we're going to ask for more money from the taxpayers. It's going to be a larger chunk of change coming out of their pockets. Prioritization is incredibly important, but we've got to get the state to fully fund education, to include special education. That would help us. Until I'm on the board, and if I'm elected, if I'm lucky enough to be elected, and I can really look at the facts and figures, I mean, I don't have the perfect answer. I do know one thing. We hired a superintendent who was very strong on budget, and I'm going to listen to him. And I think that would be important.
I feel like revenue neutral is our new catchphrase for this month. To me, it's like, hey, we spent a whole lot of money last year. We're spend a whole lot more money, or the same amount of money this year. But what have we done? Have we met maintenance issues? Have we solved teachers' pay? Do we have a direction for our handicapped on a playground that is well past what we should have been doing for them? The 20 or so K that we spend on the building down the street that we don't have a plan for. So I look at budgets and revenues. It's all, how are we spending our money? Where's our value? You know, we realize as voters that we do see value. We decide to put a pool in, increase our taxes because of that. So maybe if we can associate value with what we're doing, it might change the way we get income. And of course, why aren't we looking at other options? Why aren't we looking at grants for the playground? Why aren't we looking at what these grants we're doing for trade programs are bringing to us to help increase take our burden off our taxpayers?
Thank you. Okay, candidates, it's time for your closing statement. Sean, would you start us? 1 minute for a closing statement.
Thank you for having me. You know, my thing is growth. How do we grow the school? How do we bring in other sources of income? What value are we giving to our taxpayers? What choice are we giving to our parents to want to send our kids to school? All of those are things that I feel that are important. The other thing is community. How do we involve our community to help grow our school? We have a great view of people here who are willing to give to the school, and I think there are others there that we don't take advantage of what they can offer us as well, too. Thanks for your time. I appreciate your vote, and I'm always open to any questions or any input from anybody. Thank you.
This is a phenomenal community. This is a phenomenal school district. And I can't thank the community and school district for what they've done for me and for my boys. I do believe that this school board election is the most consequential election that Lansing has ever seen. My mom, when we talk on the phone every Sunday night, we'd get to talking about different things, and she had something that she always said, and it stuck with me as I got myself immersed in a school board election. So each night, as part of my prayer routine, I pray that people with power will get good sense, and that people with good sense will get power. I hope I can earn your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
I earned your trust 4 years ago when I was elected to the school board. I've worked diligently to make sure every vote that I have has the best interest of as many students as I can possibly have on an impact. Hopefully I've earned it enough through my actions as a school board member to retain your vote this next time. Thank you.
Hey, I just want to thank the Chamber for putting this on, and thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to come out and listen to all of us. My name is Pete M. I'm a veteran. I'm a dad. I'm a concerned citizen. I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about our kids. I'm passionate about our future. Like Carrie had said, I say my prayers every night. I say my prayers every morning for this community, thinking about the need for sensible leadership, clear-eyed, facts-based, data-driven, collaborative, communicative leadership. I ask for your vote and your trust. I will not let you down. PDM, 7 November.
We're going to have some really hard choices and decisions to make regarding budgetary and facility maintenance issues, retaining our quality staff, promoting our children's education. My focus is going to be on those decisions that have a positive impact on our student staff and our facilities while representing you as a community. My goals are to listen and to use my experience as a leader, as an educator, a community member, a parent, to govern in the way that will unite and support our amazing students, our awesome staff, and the outstanding residents of Lansing. You all supported me in the last 2 elections, and then so I ask that you support me again. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to the Chamber for putting this on, and thanks for everybody for coming out and showing some support for local government and the school district. The only promise I can make to somebody who's looking to vote for me is I promise to be a well-informed, educated on the issues school board member. I promise to do my homework, weigh the issues, both pros and cons on both sides of whatever issue it might be. I make no bones about it. I am a conservative politically, although I know we like to talk about political politics are not part of the nonpartisan elections, but unfortunately that's the lens I look through. I promise to do my best to keep taxes low, but I'm not an idiot, or contrary to popular belief, but I do know at some point, you do need money to make government work, and that's what this is government. Vote for Brian Covey, November 7th.
I'm running for the school board because of Proverbs 3:27 and 28. Do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it is in your power to act. Do not say to your neighbor, come back tomorrow, when you now have it with you. That's the same scripture that motivated my husband and me to adopt our 2 oldest children about 14 years ago. I'm at a point in my life where I have time to devote to public service. I love our country, and I believe our district needs leadership that can refocus our efforts and redistribute some resources on promoting and preserving the high academic standards under which our children will continue to thrive. Lansing students deserve the best education we can offer them, and I know from personal experience it doesn't have to cost a fortune, and it can certainly be done without the use of sexually charged profane material. I would be honored to have your vote on November 7th, and if elected, will offer my gifts and service to God and our community with diligence and respect for everyone. Please feel free to visit my website for more information, and I would appreciate your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Ladies and gentlemen, would you help me express appreciation? And my appreciation to you coming out this evening. I know there were other activities, but thank you for coming and joining and listening to us. If you still have questions that have been unasked, please let me have them, and we will get them to the candidates to gather up all the answers and then post it on the Chamber's website. Again, if you can join us next week, we'll have a debate on the expansion, to expand or not expand Medicaid in the state of Kansas. And finally, I want to express my appreciation not only to, again, my committee, Kelly Butler and Jeanette Labey, but also to Eric Price, who's managed the sound system and the live streaming for us. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming, and have a great evening and a safe drive home.